Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on Maine's TBD Connection Business Networking Podcast. This is your host, Jake McLaughlin, live at your local mortgage lender, Academy Mortgage in South Portland. Huge thanks to Noah Fennessy with Legal Shield for sponsoring this and your local networking chapter, TBD Connections, for supporting this. This podcast is for local entrepreneurs and motivated career professionals looking to get their name out there, or simply for your listeners thinking about building a brand but would like to learn first from those doing it. Today's guest, Keller Williams real estate agent Sebastian Pomeran. At 19, he's putting numbers up on the sellers and buyers side. I have so many questions for you. Let's get right into it. I would love to hear about your daily regimen, kind of how you are planning to build your business for 2023. But before we get to that, I have to know, you're 19, you've been going a year strong, you're actually putting numbers up. Before this, what the hell were you doing?
So I actually was straight out of high school, and I was working in a pizza shop, Pizziolo. Shout out Pizziolo.
Nice.
And so straight out of high school, I got my license. And right as the school year began, that's when everything was processed.
Okay.
And I was going to sign with another brokerage that I'm not going to name. And at the end of the day, we were talking for 3 months. And they basically just said that they could not train me to the extent that they want me to be. And from there, I kind of lost hope that I could actually do this.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if there would be any brokerage that could actually help train me to the extent that I needed. And then after a few months, I was just working my job at the pizza shop, and I was laid off because of some payroll issues. So I was like, I still have some time left. I need to at least try this.
Yeah.
And my mom sent me a form from Indeed for Keller Williams.
Yeah.
And I called, and here we are.
I love how you said, like, in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I need to at least do this.
Yeah.
I need to at least be able to say I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
So were you already planning to get into the real estate game?
Well, I've been interested since I was younger.
Okay.
And as I got older, I became a lot more interested in investing and making smart decisions with money, because I have a belief that when you're working for yourself and you're able to determine your own income, you have a lot better chance at accomplishing your goals than having a set amount of money that you make every single month.
Okay. What other kind of investments did you dabble in?
So I'm very heavily invested in crypto.
Okay.
And just like I do dabble in some altcoins, but after this bull run, I did lose a lot of money in those altcoins. So I'm taking a different approach. I'm going to play it smarter and only dabble with the large cap coins and coins that I know will succeed. And I do have some parameters that I follow for every single coin that I invest in. The top two, I'd say, is the team behind it and also the circulating supply. If the circulating supply is too high, then that's a good sign, because that means that the original creators of the coin aren't holding too much of the coin. So when that is too low, it's kind of a telltale sign it might be a rug pull.
I feel like any of your friends that are interested in Bitcoin, they might probably just call up Sebastian and say, "Hey, what do you think I should do here?"
Yeah, I got all of them into it.
That's awesome, man. I thought about dabbling in Bitcoin, but I don't know. I went 100% into the real estate direction. But so for you, you started with a completely different place. Realized, you know what, this is not. I want to feel like I'm doing my all.
Yes.
Okay. So you ended up with KW. What's the dynamic over there? Are you like on a team? Are you a lone wolf just doing this all by yourself? Like, what's the structure?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So a couple months ago, I was looking into joining a team, and I was interviewing with a bunch. And after one of the interviews, the person who interviewed me, Melanie Crane, she got me in contact with Michael Navarro and thought that we'd be a great fit. And so we had our first meeting, and we just really hit it off. And he gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. And now I'm partnered with him. I'm more of an administrative role, helping him with his paperwork, doing all of his showings and all that, while also still being considered a solo agent and being able to do my own business.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, I think you have it sounds like you have an eye for numbers, so it kind of makes sense why you were like, you know what, I dabble in, Bitcoin, which is, it can be a very volatile type of investment. Why don't I take a gander at some real estate and see if I can diverse my portfolio a little bit?
Yeah, that's exactly the approach I had. I wanted to diversify as much as I could. And I know people really don't like the idea of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency because of how volatile it is. But with Bitcoin, I think it's a really great store of value simply because it's a deflationary asset. There's not coins that are being made out of thin air. There's a limited supply of 21 million.
Okay.
And every single 4 years, there's something called the Bitcoin halving. And so the amount of Bitcoin mined per block gets cut in half. And that's what sparks every single bull run. So that's why we saw in 2020 the massive bull run. And before that, 2017.
Okay.
So
wow. Okay. Well, let's flip the script then onto real estate. So I'd say the biggest thing for some of my clients is just to one conversation I had recently was the down payment changes based off of the property type. That's really interesting because I had one specific client that they had it all figured out. They had talked to numerous lenders and they wanted to do a conventional loan on a multifamily. This was a first-time home buyer as well. And I thought to myself, okay, well, you must be planning on, putting down a sufficient down payment because with multi-units, the down payment is vastly different than a single-family home.
Oh, yeah. And with primary residence as well.
Right, right. I mean, we're talking single-family home, first-time home buyer, conventional product, 5% down. But you add a unit to that, so now we're dealing with a duplex. We're right up to 15% down. So I asked him, I said, well, okay, what do you have in your checking and your savings? And he basically explained to me, well, I have this much. And I'm like, okay, well, you're aware that this would be the down payment. And he was taken back by it. He was expecting a 5% down. And I said, no. The last lender you were talking to was probably telling you 5% because we were in the scenario of a single family home. If you're looking at multiple different properties, you're looking at single families and multi-units, then you want to be aware of that because, right, first-time home buyers, you don't really have any equity to pick from for that down payment. And if you're early on in your career, like most first-time home buyers are, then a minimal down payment mortgage makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's the unique thing with FHA is it does not change based off of additional units. I mean, 1 to 4 units, 3.5% down. We can use down payment grant assistance in combination with that. So that was a whole avenue that we kind of approached. But there's all kinds of conversations like that we have with clients every day, isn't there?
Yeah, there's tons. It's always something new.
Right, always something new.
Never a dull day.
Never a dull day. So one thing I want to kind of play a scenario with you. So let's say I'm a buyer's client of yours. Okay,
Yep.
I'm looking to do a single family, multifamily, whatever. But if I come to you and I'm like, this guy's going to negotiate a deal for me with probably the biggest transaction I've ever had in life, but he's 19. Why do I go to you? Why are you the guy?
Yeah, so I get this objection all the time. And with me being 19, you not only get the energy, the discipline, the hunger to do well in this business and help your clients, but I also have hundreds of years of backing with KW and my partner, who is a top producer in the company, who's here every step of the way. So you really get the best of both worlds.
That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
I think the team dynamic is what hits home with me.
Yeah, it's a huge help when you're a newer agent and to also add on to that when you're younger as well.
Right. I was in a similar boat as you when I started because I was not with Academy Mortgage. I mean, I've been in the business for a year and a half. Been with Academy going on close to 8 months now. Before this, where I started, it was a great place to learn. But the more that I learned, the more that I started to kind of look around and realize that, maybe I can, grow myself more at a different place. And funny story with how I ended up at Academy was my last, I'd made the decision, that this was going to be, my last 2 weeks. It was my transition period. I was really trying to brainstorm and find just an office I felt matched my creativity.
Yeah.
So I started cold calling lenders. not clients. I was cold calling. I was cold calling lenders, and I would do this. I'd step out for like an hour, go to my car, or I'd do it after hours or whatever. And eventually, I had some interviews set up here and there, and we'd sit down just like you and me. We'd talk, and I'd kind of share my ideas of how I'm going to market myself and whatnot. And the vibe was just not. It was just not there. So eventually, I ran out of lenders to call, and I ended up cold calling real estate agents, and I asked them who their preferred lender was.
That is that is awesome.
I mean, looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, that was a really great idea, right?
Yeah, it was.
But at that point in time, I'm just like calling everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up calling, it was a KW agent, and I actually can't remember his name, but I hope if he sees this, he remembers this. Because as soon as he answered, I'm like, look, I'm not even looking for your business. I'm looking for your expertise. Like, I'm a mortgage loan officer. I'm looking to get hooked up with a new lender. Who do you recommend? And he said, let me call you right back. And sure enough, he didn't call me back. Tamika Donahue, the branch manager at Academy Mortgage, called me back and said, what are you doing? So I explained it, and she said, come on in. And it was that I think that eye to eye that we saw in each other, where we're like, I mean, this guy just wants to be a real professional, right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you felt too when you started, and you're like, look, like I understand I'm 19.
Yeah,
I understand that this is the real estate game is a pretty competitive industry. Mm-hmm. I know all that. And you were just pretty much made that executive decision for yourself with like, I got to jump ship here. I got to find the best place to start and grow, it sounds like.
Yeah, KW, it's on a different level when it comes to training and just all the classes you can take. For my first 6 months, I was just going crazy with the classes. I took every single thing you could imagine. And I think that's what really landed me in the spot I'm in now, being able to have the opportunity to interview other teams and being able to partner with Michael. Yeah, it's all because of the work I put in coming to classes, learning everything I could. KW
does quite a bit, I feel like. Are they doing something with Dead River as well?
Oh, yeah. There's a promotion.
What's the thing with Dead River?
So with Dead River, we're partners with them, and we can give our clients discounts on certain things. Don't quote me on everything because I know there's a bunch of discounts, but
right.
But basically, it's just another incentive for our clients to sign with us because we have all these resources.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. Okay. So other than the real estate game, when you're not hustling with clients, what do you do in your free time? What's your life like?
So a day-to-day basis, I wake up pretty early, 6:30 in the morning.
Yep.
I get in the gym, and really, when I'm not working, I'm either watching podcasts, trying to learn as much as I can. I try to not waste any time in my day. I try to make everything I do purposeful, no matter what that is, whether that's eating clean, having meaningful conversations, anything like that.
I think the working out and eating healthy is like, that needs to be like priority one.
Yeah.
If you're going to be working like not your typical 8-hour day, like you could be stretched thin, for a 10, 12-hour work day. You just don't know. The best way to prepare for that's probably like working out and making sure you're fit.
It definitely is. I get offered so much food when at KW. There's always food in the classes, but I have to refrain myself.
Right. Like we work pretty similar hours, and I feel like at the end of some work days, I feel like an athlete.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It gets tiring. That's why I have to work out in the morning because after a long day at 7 p.m. when I just got home, I don't want to go to the gym, but sometimes I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah. To be honest, like the major crossroad for me and going with the mortgage side of things, I mean, I consider myself to be a bit of a numbers guy. I'd mentioned I worked with Sarah Hebert, a grant writer before, and all that. But as far as real estate goes, I was at that crossroads where it's like, do I want to be the realtor or do I want to be the lender? And the big selling point with being the lender was, well, I don't think I have to drive as much. If I do that, like, it sounds like I can probably, in this day and age, right, I can work from home, I can work from the office, I could go on vacation, and I can still do my job, as efficiently as I do it, when I'm in the state of Maine. So for you, Like, what's the, I mean, how much do you drive a day, would you say, on average?
Oh my God, every day is different. Some days when I have to show clients multiple properties, it's an all day thing. So there's not really a number I put on it. Yep. But every month I like to set aside $300 for gas, like at the minimum, because you never know. Yeah. It's a lot these days.
Huh. So $300 for gas, that's what you would recommend for anyone starting out, is like immediately just focus on a savings account for gas.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anyone who's looking to get into real estate, you got to have money for gas. You got to. And especially if you're using premium like I am, it's pretty terrible.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What's like the cost of filling a tank for your car?
Honestly, I usually only fill it up halfway. I like to
halfway, man. I feel that.
Oh yeah.
If you get a full tank of gas right now, you're doing pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If I got a full tank of gas, I had a good payday.
That's awesome. What else would you recommend to someone that's thinking of, dabbling in the real estate game?
So I was thinking about this, and I think I have 3 things that are super important for a new agent. And it doesn't matter if you're young or old, but I think the top 3 most important things are education, learning everything you can, because if you're just going out on appointments and you don't know exactly what you're talking about, it can really mess you up, and you don't want to practice on clients. So that's one thing. The second thing I'd say is image, because you have to look your part. You can't be dressed in white jeans and a t-shirt if you're not white jeans, blue jeans and a t-shirt if you're going to luxury properties showing them. Right. You want to dress the part for where you are. So if you're in the rural parts of Maine, maybe that flies. Mm-hmm. But in places like Portland, you have to make sure that your image is good, and also image online as well, making sure that you look as professional as possible on social media.
Right.
And then the third one I'd say is relationships. You have to hone down on every single relationship you have, every single person you know. You have to let them know you're in real estate and keep them up to date on your database.
I think that also applies to really anyone that's like looking to start their own business, whatever that may be, is like honing in on those relationships, because that's huge.
Yeah, I know. I feel like for every single entrepreneurial endeavor, there's a lot of base things that every single person needs to do or know.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, like with what we do, you have to wear a lot of different hats. You got to think about all aspects of business, right? You got sales, you got finance, you have marketing, all that stuff. But when it comes down to, thinking outside the box, trying to make someone's file work, right? Because the client at the end of the day could be qualified or approved. They have the money for down and closing. They're good. But then the property itself, the condition of that property may not be approved for that mortgage product. That's where we need to get creative. That's where we need to hone in on not just our client relationships, but also like our partner relationships.
100%.
Right? Like if you have, I would say, and this is, if I'm a client today, what I would tell any client is, look at your real estate agent as someone that's not only experienced, but well-connected.
Yeah, I definitely agree. If I was a client looking to hire an agent, probably one of the first things I'd want to see is them knowing that they have tons of vendors that are trusted, and people that they use consistently. Right.
Your go-to contractor, plumber, electrician, whatever it may be, even a painter, right? Because like if that relationship's already there, and we need to make a file work, it's not, hey, let's get this guy on the books or this gal on the books and have you touch up the property in 3-4 weeks whenever you can get to it or whatever. Like we need this, we could maybe need this addressed in, 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have that connection already, you call them, you've referred them business before, they did a great job the last time, this guy's going to get the job done, then that's how you make things happen quickly.
I definitely agree. And sometimes clients aren't ready to buy or sell. So that's why we'd hand them over to someone like Dan Mishu, who can help set a plan that can ensure that you will be able to at some point, but you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to accomplish that.
Yeah. Shout out to Dan Mishu over at Edward Jones, financial advisor.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah. So that's huge in itself too, is like, hey, even if you don't qualify now, we should still be having the conversation about real estate. If you're thinking about buying a home 6 months or even a year out, let's talk now, because I can't tell you, one common mistake I have with clients is, they tell me they want to buy a house. They hold off. Well, I feel like, maybe in 2 months I'll be more ready. We talk in 2 months, and then either their credit's not where it needs to be, or they don't have the savings necessary or the income. There's a lot of things we need to touch up on. So, and if that's out of my scope, then Dan's a great asset to have, where it's like, you need to talk with a financial advisor. You need to make sure you're doing it right. When it comes to taxes, an accountant is another one.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, here's a perfect scenario for an accountant. So one of my clients, she's a waitress, and the restaurant she worked at, basically on her pay stub, when she received her tips were added to her pay stub. She had to pay taxes on the tips, but that, because it was on her pay stubs, we could use that as her income, which for a waitress, that's a significant.
That's a huge thing.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean, that's like 80%, 90% of your paycheck.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what happened is, so we had a 2-year history of that, but then the business changed hands. So all this year, now tax season is right around the corner, and we're actually already in it. So for this year, she had a really good question. She said, hey, so my taxes haven't been on my paycheck for the last year, but I've been thinking about buying a home for quite some time, and I've been doing a good job of making sure I'm depositing all of my tips, so there's at least a history on my bank statement. Is that sufficient? I said, we potentially may run into problems. I can't tell you 100% because I'd have to run this by the underwriter, but you're mentioning it now, so let's get ahead of it so we don't have to have that conversation where it's iffy and I'm selling the underwriter on why this should work, FHA, let's just make sure 100% we don't even have to worry about it. I appreciate you mentioning it. Thank you for mentioning it this early on, because now I can refer you to this accountant. We can make sure that your taxes are done adequately, so that way all of your tips are added on that tax return. That changes things.
Yeah.
That changes things. So,
and I definitely think you need to always ask those questions. You need to peel back the onion. You need to go deep, because if these were to arise later on in the transaction or in the approval process, it could maybe hinder some things. So
yeah, definitely. All right. So 19 years old, in the real estate game, you're killing it. What was, this is interesting, right? Like, this is interesting. I don't feel like there's a lot of 19-year-olds out there doing real estate. So as like your starting point to being like, you know what, I want to be my own boss. I want to run things. And I also want to feel like I'm helping the community as well. Like, where did all that start? Like, even before like high school, like what were you thinking back then? How did this tie into what you do now?
Yeah. So from a young age, I always knew that I had to step up. Being in a single parent household with just me and my mom, I knew that I was going to have to be the one to get us out of here, because I didn't have anything to fall back on. So I needed to develop skills, and I had to grow up faster than maybe some other people to make that happen.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. All right. So when, as you went to high school, was there any, like, as far as like classes, were anything specific that caught your mind, or were you just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if college is for me. Did you go to college or?
So that's a funny story. So I'll just go back to high school. So in high school, I was a great student. I did really well.
Yeah.
And I did have an offer. Well, yeah, I had an offer to go to USM for a full ride, and then some to pay for books and all that. So
oh, wow.
I had a really good offer in. And I deferred 1 year so I could get my real estate license. And then if that didn't work out, then I was like, okay, maybe I'll go to school.
Yeah.
And so this summer, I kind of had an ultimatum to make. And I realized that if you want to be a great agent and really meet your goals in this business, you need to be full-time. You can't be part-time. And I wasn't willing to risk losing 4 years of experience to go to college and just do the same thing I want to do right now. So.
Yeah. I know a realtor that he does school and real estate, and you just can't do it.
Yeah, some people can do it, but I didn't want to take that risk. So.
Right. I couldn't imagine not putting in an easy 40 hours. Like,
yeah.
there's 60, 80-hour work weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's crazy. So so you had like a scholarship offered to you or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had a scholarship offered to you, basically a handout to get you into USM.
Yep.
And you were like, I know what I want to do. Let's put this to the side. And, you know, because inevitably, what would you have gone to school for? Business?
Yeah, business.
Okay.
And some people that my mom worked with told me that their kids can't even get a job and they have a 4-year business degree. So like just looking back on it, I'm really thankful that I took the leap of faith and utilized my plan A, because when you have a plan B, you've already given up on plan A.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't take that risk and just fall back on a degree, because I don't know if I could even fall back on that in the future.
Right. It's interesting too. Like, I mean, my degree in finance, like the first 2 years, it dabbled in, you know, all your essential core business aspects like marketing and sales and, you know, accounting and all that stuff. And it was like I guess it was good to have like a tip of the iceberg type of experience.
Yeah.
But like matched with the first year of your career, especially with this, where it's all business oriented. I mean, I feel like I've learned 100 times more than what I could have gathered in a classroom.
Yeah, I feel like experience always triumphs that. So
yeah, definitely, man. Well, I think you're definitely in the fast lane to success, man. Like I've heard from others that you're out there, you're grinding, you're doing everything you can to make things work, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man.
Of course. So like, what's your day-to-day like as a real estate agent? Like how do you make it all work?
Yeah. So as I said before, I wake up at 6:30 a.m., go to the gym, and then I'm in the office with Michael. It's pretty different from day to day. Some days we're at a closing, some days we're writing up comps, doing showings. So it's pretty, not sporadic, but it's just different every single day. There's not like a specific thing in place that we do every single day other than lead gen and cleaning up the database. So
Gotcha. Do you time block?
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing that Keller Williams has instilled in me.
Yeah.
To time block everything, like literally everything.
Right.
So
right, and that's where it feels like you're literally an athlete, because you're like some points of the day you're like, all right, I got 2 hours where I got to do this task.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm gonna get like all of it done, but I'm gonna get as much of it efficiently done as possible, and then you move on to the next task and the next task and the next task, and then it's like you almost black out. And then, you get to like 6-7 o'clock at night and you're like, geez, I'm still meeting with clients, all this stuff.
Yeah. These days fly by.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fun gig, but you really have to love what you do. And that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, 100%. Because if I wasn't so interested in people and helping people, and because I have an innate need to feel like useful. So if I'm not being useful, I get down, you know what I mean? So I need to always be busy and keep my days filled so I don't slip up. Right.
Man, it's conversations like this that makes me think, like, back when I worked a corporate job, like, it's interesting because when I think back to working my hourly paying jobs, I think I always started that job being like, I can't wait to get like 1 or 2 years experience so I can move up to the next rank. Like, my plan was okay, I can't wait to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like, I'm just happy with where I'm at and I'm content. I love what I do and I can see myself doing this 10 years from now. Like, that was literally like my train of thought was, I just started this job. Great. I can't wait to gain all this experience so I can get past this part and, hopefully get that promotion, 2-3 years out, whenever that may be. And I feel like, at least for me, I reached a point where I feel like that was never going to change, like that mentality, right? And that's
it's the same cycle every single day,
right?
And if you're waking up on a Monday and you're dreading the day, you're definitely not doing what you want to do. So there definitely needs to be a change, because I wake up every day excited to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So
right. I think that mental awareness is becoming more popular now, and I don't know if it has to do with like, social media content where you can access everything online and you can learn about all these different careers and, I mean, you could YouTube the life of a real estate agent
Yeah.
and see if it's actually something you could get into, right? Like we have all those tools at our disposal. And I think now more than ever, corporate companies are having a real tough time. Like your black and white corporate, starting out at hourly pay, maybe a salary or whatever. I think a lot of them are having a tough time keeping the younger generations.
Yeah, and I definitely think it comes with pros and cons as well, because I think sometimes social media can give a false expectation of what really happens, because I know my expectation going into real estate was a lot different than when I got into it.
Yeah.
And just a lot of people you see like these 18-year-old kids, 17-year-old kids making millions of dollars, and you're like, oh, I can do that.
Right.
Then they go into that and realize that they can't, and they just give up. So that's why it's super important to just keep going and just follow the goals, take one step at a time.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Like the first 2-3 years of this business is tough.
Yeah, it's gut wrenching.
Yeah. I mean, a good way to put it is like, some days I feel like I'm running for political office. I literally feel like that, because it's all about, getting your name out there, talking with people, and, like that's what like my business model is based around, is like, how am I going to differentiate myself from, JK Bank down the road? Like, right? Like, what makes me different? Why would someone want to go to me and not the bank? Well, it's like, well, guess what? I have the personal service. I answer my phone after 9 to 5 hours. But now I think everyone's doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So now what's the next thing? Right? Is like, well, I want the mortgage idea, the idea of going into your typical bank, sitting down. You're talking to a loan officer with a suit and tie on, and he's giving you all these, crazy terms you really don't fully understand. You don't have a good idea as to what your settlement costs will be until, one week before, you go under contract. You have all these unknowns. It's a real kind of overwhelming thing to think about.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Right. And like, that's what I think that's what pulls a lot of people back from being like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm ready to buy a house right now, and I don't even want to think about it because I have so many other, priorities in life that need to be dealt with right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do I change that? Let's make the mentality about a mortgage being like a real positive thing, like, because it is. I mean, it's a investment in itself. You get equity, you generate wealth. You have more space for your family. You don't have to worry about the cost of rent increasing year to year. Like, you're in control of all that. So it's a real positive thing. Let's make it an environment where you feel like you can comfortably come here, ask questions, right? Like, you talk to me, I'm going to educate you. I'm going to make the office feel homey, comfortable. You can drop in whenever you want. Shoot me a text. Let me know when you plan on stopping by. I'll make sure I'm here. Great. Like, when you talk to me, we don't even have to talk about credit. Like, just talk some shop with me. Ask me some questions that's on your mind. I'll educate you.
Yeah. And like, at the end of the day, us in the real estate business, we're here to make people's lives easier. We're not here to make them harder. And that's why we're here, as resources to help them make decisions like this. So,
gotcha. Now, one of the last things I want to end on too, because it's like, I hear this a lot from like your first time home buyers, is they tend to think the real estate agent is the only one in the transaction.
Yeah, that's definitely not how it goes.
No. So this conversation is interesting because you have the two necessities if you're a buyer's client, right? So you have your loan officer. Basically what I do is I just go over, any loan that you're approved for. We do what's called a loan comparison. So this is after we've done your pre-approval. Now, your pre-approval is based off of your income, your employment history, your credit. But once we have your pre-approval, that's based on some loan options. So back to that loan comparison, we'll look at your FHA, we'll look at your conventional, your USDA, all those loan products. And then we'll do a cost breakdown, right? Some loan products will have higher mortgage insurance, but less needed at settlement. Some will have pretty lean mortgage insurance, but you'll need to put more down. And then based off of our prior conversations, right? Like what other things are you saving for in life? What are your plans post-closing, right? Like what makes sense? Does it make sense for you to put minimal down and have a higher mortgage insurance if it gets you in the door, if it allows you to start acquiring equity? I don't know. Like, let's have that conversation. And as we go through, me and you, you're the buyer's agent, we're talking a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a lot. I can definitely see why it's intimidating to first-time home buyers.
Right. I try to do a weekly check-in with the client, but I feel like with most my buyer's agents, we're communicating like almost every other day.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because as you look at properties, right, that brings us back to making sure the property is going to work for the loan as well.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the most important parts.
Right? And we're troubleshooting about the financial aspects as well. So you're basically the market expert for the properties.
Yep.
And I'm going over all of our loan products that are, whatever we have with inventory. We're going to look at your financial situation and see, does this make sense to you? So you help them get into the house, you negotiate the contract, you make sure that the deal makes sense, the deal works from your end. And then I'm pretty much guiding from a financial standpoint. You may be approved for the property. Can you afford it? And does it make sense from that angle as well? Right?
Yeah.
All right, Sebastian with Keller Williams, ladies and gentlemen, he's killing it in the industry. If you have any questions, reach out.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate being on here.
Perfect.